Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
We are back yet again. The Fantasy Footballers.
The best one is back.
Mike is back.
Don't worry, America.
Yes, we've all been waiting for you.
I'm here.
Oh, Mike is back in action. It's Tuesday. It's February 29th, which is something you just can't say every day or every year.
No.
I want
Because it's March 1st.
Can you imagine being born on this day? How young you are.
You're right. It is March 1st.
We're recording on
Yesterday
the 29th.
was the 29th. Or today, depending on. See, we record. That's a horrible mistake.
Oh man, it's so.
How was your leap year, Mike?
Here's a fun fact for the Foot Clan.
Yeah.
We have these show docs where we have the schedule of the show, what we're going to talk about and go through. I frequently am the one who changes the date at the top, and I frequently mess it up. I have this strange
anytime in the past,
block.
pretty much that you've heard me say the wrong date, it's been Mike's
my fault. Yeah, and I take the credit for this. This time, I had nothing to do with it.
No, this is like 2 in a row for me now. And the problem is during the regular season, we record every day during the morning, and then now we record the day before. Just gives us some more time to get the video and everything done. And apparently it's incompatible with how we think of time.
You quantum
leapt. Yeah. I thought about making a quantum leap joke.
I love that show, man.
That was great. Great show.
Oh, hi, Jason.
Hey, what's going on?
How you doing?
Happy to be here on Trivia Tuesday.
Yes, today we have a trivia show for you. It is a way for us to highlight some of the really impressive, interesting stats over the last year and debate some of the players moving forward. We had the Combine this past weekend. We've got some news we're going to break down for you, and that's going to be today's show. So it's going to be a good one. You can find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. We're on the Fantasy Sports Network on YouTube. We'll have the show after the show today, which I believe we're going to debate pretty much whether Mike or Jason would win in a pro wrestling match.
Yeah, there was a question on the last mailbag. I was not here to state my case, and my name was besmirched and dragged through the mud of my qualifications for a professional wrestling match. We put it out to the Foot Clan, and they had something very different to say.
I'm glad that conversation is going to be on YouTube so that the video, because it might turn into
there could be a
real
chair involved.
Pro
You guys be
wrestling match. Watch, hide the
kids, hide the wives.
No one believed that I could compete. That is
Yeah, I like how you left yourself out of this debate.
why I'm not part of the debate.
All right.
I never made any claims to it. So we'll move on from there. So the Combine was this past weekend. So the quick question for you guys is this. Was there somebody that really stood out to you? This is stage 1 of our you guys are both smirking, and I know exactly why. So just get it out of the way.
So I had 2 things really stand out to me. Number 1, we'll start with the seriousness.
Okay.
Of CJ Prosise, the running back out of Notre Dame, he's only been a 1-year running back, so that is the knock on him because he played wide receiver, he played some defensive back, but he had a great senior season, and he came out and had an excellent combine. You're talking about a guy who was 6 foot, 220 pounds, and ran a 4.46. That is tremendous for a running back. The question is, is he ready to play the position? Will it take a few years? Where does he go in the draft, so to speak? Will he be a third down back type of guy? But his measurables are very, very interesting, the way he performed. And he had a great broad jump, 3-cone. In all aspects of the combine, he really performed.
So he impressed you.
Yes. So I think he's an interesting name to monitor. The second thing that really stood out to me was a defensive lineman, Chris Jones, out of Mississippi State, who his shorts were a little too short, and he had a
he was running hard.
He was running very, very hard.
He literally ran out of his shorts.
He had a Janet Jackson level wardrobe malfunction.
I would say worse because there's a difference between top half and bottom half.
Sure, that's a very fair argument. And if you haven't seen it,
congratulations.
If you want to track it down, the way the events unfold is very, very funny. He falls down towards the end. You don't know what's happening. The announcers are like, "Oh, he fell." It's the medical staff is going to check on him. Let's go back to the slow motion.
Don't do it.
They should not have gone to the slow motion because everything is there in glorious nature.
You can see him mouthing, "My blank
fell out of my
my
pants."
pants."
I just want to know, because we know what the combine means to the careers of these guys, their whole future, and the moment you know that's taking place, I mean, pushing past inhibitions
That's
to complete your 40 time.
that will never leave this young man's career.
No, that's
No.
that's
If he
what
has
he
a
is
great
famous
career,
for.
he'll be remember. All right, for me at the combine, it was more an affirmation of sorts for Elliott.
Yes.
Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
Look, he's a complete package. I'm just excited to I can't use that language right now. Yeah, even more than Chris Jones. 3 down back, ran a 4.47. He's an all-around type of player, which you love from a fantasy perspective. You know he could be a guy that comes in and is given the opportunity on all 3 downs. He can, his pass catching was impressive. He is powerful. He is everything we saw in college when he ran for over 1,800 yards and 23 touchdowns. He is the kind of guy who, if he lands in the right spot, I mean, I liken him not athletically, but opportunity-wise. If he landed in a place like Yeldon did, where he gets the chance to actually come out and be,
absolutely,
kind of the guy, that would be so exciting for fantasy owners. And so, just the affirmation of what Elliott was at the combine, I'm just excited for him. I think he is the best running back in the class.
I completely agree with that. And as of right now, he's my. If you're talking rookie redrafts, he's my top guy.
Right now, yeah.
I don't have
the way wide receivers are performing.
Yeah.
The worst wasn't this the
Worst 40 time.
The slowest 40 time in 11 years
for the wide receiver position.
You know what's
and
funny?
we see that.
Well, yeah. What I was going to say is, it's funny is that the time that they ran was the Antonio Brown time.
Yeah, on average. These numbers are definitely skewed. I was going to maybe go with Laquan Treadwell and how disappointing his combine performance was, but I'm going to stick with the theme of running back here, and I'm going to go with Derrick Henry. He is a monster. Now, I don't know if this is going to translate to the NFL. I think a guy his size, and he didn't do well in the 3-cone drill, which is a really important drill. So, for agility, I'm not sure if he's going to translate to the NFL. He's not your typical NFL running back, but I do know that he is a freak, and I mean a freak athlete. You want to look at one of the biggest freak athletes in the NFL, that's Von Miller, right? Von Miller is unbelievable, and if you haven't heard the comparison between running back, a running back Von Miller, or Derrick Henry, against Von Miller, they have almost identical combine results. They've got the same height, the same weight, the same 40-yard dash. Henry actually bench pressed more than Von Miller did, had the same vertical and a broad jump of 10 feet 10 inches, which was 4 inches better than Von Miller's. Derrick Henry is a physical freak of nature, and he should be able to do something special if he gets a good coach who can work him out. I'm very interested to see what team he goes to.
All right, you guys ready to get into the news?
Yeah, sure.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, so we have Tom Brady signed a 2-year extension. That news broke this morning, or in the listener's case, yesterday.
Yeah, good news, New England.
Tom Brady, still your quarterback. We had reports that the Falcons are expected to target Mohamed Sanu.
I think that's very interesting. That Sanu, while I don't know that if he's kind of a 2, so to speak. There was also the word that the Falcons are trying to chase down Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones would be far more interesting for me to go there, more a complete wide receiver. But Sanu does have his he has his moments, and he has his purposes for an offense as a whole.
I think we saw his capability when A.J. Green went down at various times the year before last, where he was on the field and he made some plays. And so as a compliment,
he had that monster first half and then just vanished like Houdini.
So is Mohamed Sanu better than Leonard Hankerson?
Yes. He's better than Leonard Hankerson. I don't think Leonard Hankerson is very good.
So the point being that Julio Jones draws the coverage.
Yes.
And you get opportunities to make catches. And the problem is Hankerson dropped everything. Sanu can catch the ball. One
of the clear problems for the Falcons last year was their wide receiver number 2. They expected it to be Roddy White still, and Roddy White is gone. He's done. He wasn't able to get separation at all. And then so they kind of elevate Leonard Hankerson to that role. He can't catch the ball. And now, unsurprisingly, they're saying this is a focus we've got to look at in free agency. So if they go out and sign a capable wide receiver 2, that could have decent fantasy implications. As we saw the success of the Allen Hurns and Eric Decker when they are paired with a really great wide receiver 1, that they get consistent production from that number 2 spot. So it's definitely worth monitoring.
Out of the Tampa Tribune, Roy Cummings reports it's unlikely that the Bucs will use the franchise tag on Doug Martin.
I think he's gone.
I do too. I was going to say, I think Doug Martin will not be there anymore. There's been some positive talk about Sims' capabilities, and I think that will be interesting. I wouldn't have exceptionally high hopes if he has to carry the load. But I think Doug Martin's going to leave.
I completely agree. I don't think the money is there in Doug Martin. Rightfully so, is going to want to be paid. You can't.
This is his time.
You can't throw it away. You get that one. Running backs usually get one big chance, and he's the guy right now. So he's going to get probably overpaid, and good for him to do so. Now, franchise tag, if I'm correct off the top of my head, that's due Tuesday. So
the deadline is coming very quickly.
And the fact that they're even saying, like, well, they're not going to tag him, you can't expect a contract to be coming for me. So Martin's going to hit the market.
All right. The Patriots are investigating free agent running backs Joique Bell, Matt Forte, Chris Ivory, Alfred Morris. Do you guys know where that report came from?
I saw that report. I don't remember the exact source. It was really focused on the fact that they were also talking about Chris Ivory, who I think would be an interesting fit if they let LeGarrette Blount go, because he's a touchdown, first and second down type of back. The problem is I think Chris Ivory probably is going to go after a larger
He'll get money.
The only guy in that entire group that I think is a possibility is Joique Bell.
I think Alfred Morris is a possibility, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of offers for him. So if he can go there cheap, he'd be an upgrade over LeGarrette Blount in my mind.
I think Morris will be in demand.
Really?
I do. Yeah, he's still very young, 27, I think. Peyton Manning set to not retire. Wait, yes, he will. No, report.
Everyone is reporting that Peyton Manning should retire.
There you go.
The Denver Post ran a story. They said Peyton Manning set to retire. They had multiple sources. Then Twitter fought back, saying Peyton Manning is disputing.
Well, the Broncos fought back too.
They're disputing these claims, and I believe the sources then disappeared from the Denver Post story. Oops.
I love the idea of being a journalist that takes a 50-50 shot on something. I mean, I feel that way, all the credit due to Schefter most of the time. But when you report, he's either going to retire or he's not. So just pick one side, report it early, get your name out there.
Well, and what are the benefits from being the first one on this? Like, Peyton Manning to retire. Like, we got the scoop, guys. We all expected Peyton Manning to retire. This is not really a breaking news situation.
No. So let's go ahead. We're done with the news here. Let's move on. I'm going to go vintage on our drop here.
Yes.
So if you've been with us for a long time, you'll enjoy it. If you haven't, you'll be disturbed, and we'll go from there.
I want to play a game.
Do you want to play a game, gentlemen?
That's my favorite drop.
Game time
in the history of the fantasy footballers.
It's disturbing. It's frightening. I have nightmares when I play it. I hope to never hear it again, but we didn't get a new drop made for
we'll never get a new drop made, because that's Mike's favorite drop, and Mike makes the drop. So.
That is true. We'll have to
You'll hear it again.
All right, so we're going to play a game. I got the answers. You guys do not. This is a number of trivia questions that we have.
That's a bold
accusation.
Yes.
We do not have the answers.
Well, I guess that will be to be determined. All right.
Okay, that's fair.
And so this is more a catalyst for some discussion. So let's start it off here. Number one, in 2015, in every game that I started, I had either a touchdown or 100-plus yards from scrimmage. Who am I?
What?
100 yards?
2015, in every
Okay.
game that I started,
Started.
I had either a touchdown or 100-plus yards from scrimmage.
Okay.
Who am I? And let me give you some options. And so you can play along with us at home. I'm going to give you 4 choices. A, Brandon Marshall. B, Karlos Williams. C, DeAngelo Williams. Or D, Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, that's a good question. Brandon Marshall is out to me. He started every game he played, and I know he didn't always get 100 yards or a touchdown. So
my thought process is leaning me to Karlos. Karlos Williams
Final answer?
Was a touchdown monster, and I know he didn't start a ton of games, but I'm going with Karlos Williams for my final answer.
And I'm going to go the route of the Steelers, and I am going with
Which
Le'Veon.
one?
Yeah, I know that's tough. I'm going to go with Le'Veon Bell because
The correct answer is Karlos Williams.
Oh!
So Mike takes the lead there. Karlos Williams had a very impressive rookie year. In fact, we had a Twitter poll about which second-year running back people were most excited about, and he was very high on the list compared to where I would have assumed.
Right.
Well,
And
not
so-
every. I don't think David Johnson and
we left off the obvious guys who are going to get taken in the first round.
The point being that Karlos Williams had a lot of interest from people over guys like Amir Abdullah, who,
Could
Karlos
be a starter.
Right. Yeah. So Karlos Williams is somebody who is a high-risk, high-reward pick for Buffalo.
And speaking of the last thing I heard, maybe you guys have heard differently, the update for LaShawn McCoy. Last I heard, as of now, there will be no charges filed against LaShawn McCoy. So
does not mean that there won't be a suspension.
that is
coming.
correct, but
And it doesn't mean that he won't hurt his knees in games 1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh, come
5. I'm just saying for the Karlos Williams owner,
oh yeah.
don't get
Yes.
lost in the fact that he only has value if LaShawn McCoy is suspended. Realize that Williams was, that is impressive. A touchdown or 100 yards from scrimmage. And what did he start his career by scoring in his first how many games?
6 or 8, something like
Somewhere around there. All right, so Mike takes the lead, 1-0. We'll see if this translates into who would win the pro wrestling match as well. Number 2, I am a tight end that led the league at my position in 2015 at highest targets per snap at 19.3% and the most targets per game at 8.9. I am A, Delanie Walker, B, Jordan Reed, C, Rob Gronkowski, or D, Greg Olsen. And the way we're going to play this is it's going to be the first person to secure an answer.
I'm going Delanie Walker.
Yeah. I don't think it should be the first person to secure, because then I'm just going to blurt out when I want people at home to have a chance to process the question.
You want some time?
Yeah, I think we should have some time.
And I agree that I'm going to go with Delanie Walker.
Then I will alternate who gets to answer first.
There you go.
I believe that the questionnaire is trying to lure me in with my affection for Rule 86, but I know Delanie Walker got mad targets.
The answer is Delanie Walker.
Yeah.
So Delanie Walker is still somebody who is not as sexy to people. The offense wasn't great. Delanie Walker isn't an athletic freak like some of these other guys with the upside that seems to be, where Jordan Reed went completely crazy at the end of the year. But I think Delanie Walker cannot be ignored next year.
No, when we've talked tight ends in this offseason, we have talked about Gronk, we've talked about Jordan Reed, we've talked about Gary Barnidge, Greg Olsen, Tyler Eifert, Zeus, all of those guys, even Julius Thomas. We never talk about Delanie Walker, and last year in any PPR setting, a half-point PPR, Delanie Walker scored the second most in half-point PPR of all tight ends, and he's completely left off, which means great draft value for next year. Whereas you're not going to have to spend a third round or second or fourth to get one of those top guys. Delanie Walker's going to be 8th, 9th round, 10th round pick. And
was he on the board when we drafted Julius Thomas in our mock draft episode?
No,
I don't
way.
believe he was.
Okay.
But he was 94 for almost 1,100 yards. That's
impressive.
That's outrageous.
And obviously what you like about that is he also built that rapport with the new quarterback, with Mariota. All right, number 3. So you guys both got credit for that one, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, number 3. Devonta Freeman and I were the only 2 players in 2015 to have over 500 rushing yards and over 500 receiving yards. Who am I?
Ooh.
A, Giovani Bernard.
I know the answer.
B, you do?
I believe I know the answer. Over 500 rushing and over 500 receiving.
Correct.
Can I say it now? Well, I want.
No, what?
A, Giovani
Hold
Bernard.
on. Is there like bonus? Yeah, let him write it down.
All right.
Well, he's giving
B,
time to write it down.
Danny Woodhead. C, Duke Johnson. Or D, Charles Sims.
Ooh, those are great. Great answers.
I'm guessing based on Jason's face that he wrote none of those names down on the paper.
I wrote the correct name down on the paper.
So what did you write on your paper?
I wrote the surprising backup running back, Charles Sims, who I'm very confident had more than 500 on the ground and 500 through the air, over 1,000 total yards on the season.
Yeah, I lean towards Charles Sims, and I will thoroughly.
No, go Danny Woodhead.
No. But what I'll do is I will concede a bonus point for writing down the answer early, as long as I'm going to need some physical proof that you wrote down Charles Sims.
Yeah, hold it up. Hold it up.
Don't look. All right.
Let me see. All right, you are correct.
All
it
right,
is Charles Sims.
Yeah.
And what a good time to talk
Monster.
about Charles Sims because of the Doug Martin potential.
Absolutely.
Leaving Tampa. There's no way in my mind that they will leave the entire workload up to Charles Sims. He's not that type of a player. He is a very underrated player, and he had big numbers last year. And in PPR half-point leagues, he was much higher than people would ever recognize.
Yeah, he was still available on waivers in a lot of leagues late in the season where it was like, wow, he's a top 20 back.
RB2, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you got so consistently, and yet you just couldn't pull the trigger on starting him usually because he was a backup and you didn't think you could rely on it. So I'm excited to see if they go out and let's say they draft a running back in the 3rd or 4th round, you have to assume Charles Sims is going to be the starter and the other guy's going to come in and back him up. And Charles Sims is a capable running back and a great pass catcher.
I think short of somehow the Bucs drafting like an Ezekiel Elliott, that Charles Sims will be the starter next year. We've had conflicting reports out of Tampa, one saying they didn't think that Charles Sims could be a featured guy, but the newest report now that
Cutter came out and said they viewed him that way.
It sounds like Doug Martin won't be back. Cutter has said he has every down back potential if that's what they need to do. He will be a very interesting name coming into the draft season.
All right, let's go ahead and move on here.
We got a cackler over here.
I just think you have to trust that first report before when there wasn't an obvious reason to say, yeah, he's an every down back.
In 2015, I finished the season with over 1,000 rushing yards, but only managed 0.2 yards per carry more than I had in the previous year. I also ended the regular season only averaging 3.1 per carry in my last 5 games. Who am I?
Ooh.
A, Latavius Murray. B, Chris Ivory. C, Adrian Peterson. Or D, Devonta Freeman.
Man, those are great options. In my head, I have narrowed it down to the first 2 between Murray and Chris Ivory. I know that they both really slowed down towards the end of the year, and because I hate Jason, and I know this will be a metaphorical punch to his gut, I'm going with Latavius Murray stinking it up.
Yeah, I like
stinking
that.
it up towards the end of the year.
I am not. I'm not going Latavius Murray.
Even if you believed it in your heart of hearts.
Honestly, I believed before the question that it was Chris Ivory. Chris Ivory was on there, so I'm going Chris Ivory. And not just because of my love for Latavius Murray, which, to be fair, is quickly fading.
Oh no!
Well, I'm not blind. I'm not blind
Wow.
to new information, and it just seems like they're going to bring in. I think one of the most realistic landing spots for Doug Martin is the Raiders, and if that happens, then I have no love for Latavius Murray other than he'll probably be a good draft value because you'll get him way too late, but he's not going to be something special. So I do like Latavius Murray, the talent. I'm going Chris Ivory on the question.
You're both wrong.
Oh, man.
You're both wrong. I will say this. Ivory did average 0.2 yards per carry more than the previous year, but he finished stronger than what I said. It's Devonta Freeman. Devonta Freeman finished the season with only 3.1 for the last 5 games. He only went up 2 yards per carry on his previous year despite the explosion.
Yes.
And so Devonta Freeman is somebody who I have a hard time not doubting. I really do. I have a hard time. I'm not saying he won't be worth something, but I have a hard time not doubting the fact that they drafted Tevin Coleman for a reason, that Coleman's built a little bit more prototypically for what you want between the tackles and in that offense. And it's a situation where I could see it going both directions, and that's what makes me scared about it. It could be great for Devonta Freeman drafters if he comes out and he is the pass-catching kind of PPR monster he was again a year ago. Even if he doesn't rush that well, he still had the high value. That being said, I could see if Coleman came out and had a couple great games to start the year, you could be in a full platoon.
Yeah, it's tough because I don't think that Freeman is going to go away. I think he's going to have a fine season next year. The question is, will that return on where you have to draft him, which is a first-round pick? You're spending a first
or second, yeah.
Well,
this might be a bad comparison. However, build-wise, the Ellington, David Johnson situation where, if Freeman got banged up a little bit and Coleman was the David Johnson and came in and did really well to start the year, you just wonder, Ellington's never getting that role back.
Right.
And it's not the right perfect comparison, but at the same time, I could see some things where you got the guy that Johnson and Coleman were the rookies, and Ellington was the incumbent, and Freeman did really well in the time that Coleman was out. But I'm a little afraid, and I think if Freeman's being drafted like an Adrian Peterson or those type of players, you have so much more risk.
Even if he doesn't get injured and stays the lead back, he probably won't return the first-round value, so it's tough to take him there.
I talk about, from time to time, a part of the way that I play fantasy football and the way a philosophy of with a particular player, you have to be okay hitting or missing on that player. In certain guys fall into that category, and Devonta Freeman is in that category for me, that I am perfectly fine missing out on Freeman and being wrong and him having a great season because he will not be on any of my teams unless somehow he's in like a third round or something. Some weird freaky thing happens. But generally speaking, paying the price up front for Freeman, he won't be on my teams, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Before I get to question number 5, I have a quick – did you watch the show after the show from the episode you missed?
I did,
The Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell debate?
Yes.
Where did you fall in that?
I'm Antonio Brown.
Okay.
I'm Antonio Brown, number 1 overall right now.
If you looked at the comments, we had tons of comments on that one, and people were on both sides of the fence. It's very interesting. A lot of it was what the type of attitude Jason had, which is, you must do this. There were a lot of, you must take Le'Veon Bell. You must take Antonio Brown.
And it's for me, it's not where I didn't agree with Jason was it kind of sounded like he was going into risk aversion, and that's not how I play. For me, Antonio Brown maybe it sounds like risk aversion, but I know that he's such a lock that's who I want. I want a guy who's going to be dependable on my team no matter what the situation is. Like, we remember the streak, the 5 for 50 streak that he had of 20-plus games that was only destroyed because Michael Vick sucked.
But if it's not risk aversion and running backs are more scarce, and Le'Veon Bell represents that level of consistency, if you don't consider the fear of injury,
right,
at the position that's more scarce,
I'm perfectly fine with Bell going number 1. Just to me, it's because I'm saying, like, where I think Julio Jones is going to be great, Odell Beckham will be a monster. I'm locked in with Antonio Brown.
No, it's very fair. And again, nobody's going to be disappointed if you have
and it's a little bit of both because it's not risk aversion in Antonio Brown. It's the fact that normally running backs are more valuable there because of the position scarcity, but it's the risk aversion of the running backs that I have. I'm in agreement with you. Antonio Brown's locked in as a top-end, highest-tier caliber player. I would normally still lean a running back over that because of the position scarcity, except all of them are giant question marks, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like Brown, not to keep going too long, but Antonio Brown, the worst he will finish to me is wide receiver 3.
Sure. Probably.
So that's why to me that's where I got him. Like, oh, things go really wrong. He's wide receiver 3.
All right, we'll move on. Number 5, 2015 was a contract year for me. In which I finished with more rushing touchdowns, 8, and more receptions, 47, than my fellow upcoming free agents. Which one of these free agents am I?
Ooh.
Chris Ivory, Doug Martin, Lamar Miller, Matt Forte.
Can you read it again? Can you read the stats?
2015 was a contract year for me. Finished with more rushing touchdowns, 8, and more receptions, 47, than my fellow upcoming free agents. Chris Ivory, Doug Martin, Lamar Miller, and Matt Forte.
To me,
which free agent am I?
Oh, man.
Because we hear about the running back free agents and which one should get signed first.
Jason, what are you doing over there?
I'm looking at lists. No, I'm not. I'm looking at lists of players.
Well, I just gave you the 4 names.
I find these techniques questionable over here.
You don't need to look at lists of players. You have the 4 names.
To me, it's between Doug Martin and Lamar Miller. I'm trying to recall the touchdown amount.
I know that's exactly what I want it to be Miller, but I don't remember him getting 4 receiving touchdowns.
Did you? He didn't.
I didn't say 4
he said
receiving
8
touchdowns.
rushing.
8
touchdowns.
rushing touchdowns. I
thought you said 8 rushing
touchdowns.
and 4 receiving,
and more receptions, 47 receptions than my fellow upcoming free agents. That's what I said.
40. I don't think Miller had 47. 47 receptions?
Correct. You two are doing really well.
Well, then I'm going Lamar Miller.
I'm going with Matt Forte.
The answer is Lamar Miller.
Dang it. He had 47 receptions?
That is correct.
Wow. I did.
He's a great receiver.
I didn't realize it was that high.
I heard I heard the question wrong with receiving touchdowns, and I was thinking I don't remember. I was always frustrated because they always passed on the goal line. I was a Lamar Miller owner, and he never caught the touchdowns, even though he was open on those little routes.
Is Lamar Miller a better running back, a better free agent running back than Doug Martin?
Maybe.
I would say yes, because in this era of the NFL, I think you have to have a pass-catching back, and not that Doug Martin can't do it, but I think Lamar Miller is an excellent pass catcher, good pass protector, and pass catcher.
Well, what I know about Lamar Miller is he hasn't really had a crap season where you were massively disappointed in Lamar Miller. Maybe it's his rookie year, but ever since then, he's been great. Where Doug Martin has had a career, a good bad sandwich, where he started awesome and now the current year was great, but in between there were injury plagued, very inefficient years. So I'm going to go with Lamar Miller as a more consistent type of running back.
All right, so Jason has 4 points, Mike has 3, and we move on to question number 6. I am a second-year wide receiver that plays on a team with the most first downs per game, and I finished this season as a wide receiver 1.
Brandin Cooks.
Yes, and the giveaway there was obviously the most first downs per game.
Because I heard the quick question of the day when I was out of the office.
Yes, he finished as the wide receiver 12 in ESPN standard scoring formats. But much like his quarterback, who disappointed people with, 8 touchdowns in his first 6 games, he was under the radar, much like even Jordan Matthews did, where he finished at a place that was different than the perception of his season. Now, you could interpret that both ways. You can interpret that as, well, he let me down when I needed him to start the season. He wasn't the, he's certainly not the physical type of receiver you would have and expect to be a wide receiver 1, but he ended up as a wide receiver 1. So where do you project Brandin Cooks heading into next season? As a wide receiver 1 again? Is he on the cusp again?
I think you put him in the cusp or firmly in 1. That's to look at him as, a middle tier wide receiver 2 is too low. One of the things we have to remember about the New Orleans Saints last year was their defense was not bad at the beginning of the year. It was epically bad. It was so horrendously bad. And while game flow says, well, you're still throwing the ball, it changes what other defenses are able to do to you. And you saw the Saints become a better team the second half of the year, especially after they changed their defensive coordinator, and it coincided with a better offense where you could be balanced. And I believe that Brandin Cooks has the talent, has the quarterback, and has the offense that says he should finish as one of the 12 best wide receivers in the league.
So a couple things I just want to talk about Brandin Cooks really quick. I have him as a high level 2 right now without having ranked every single player. That's about where I value him at this current point of time. My question for you guys is, Brandin Cooks is in things like a dynasty redraft. He goes quite high. And at the same time, Drew Brees goes very, very low, usually in like double-digit round, the beginning of double digits, where I did a startup mock with the Dynasty Nerds, and I got Drew Brees, I think, in the 10th or the 11th round. And my question for you guys, and I was talking to them about it, it's like, if you think Brandin Cooks, like, do you think he's that great? Or is he just a product of Drew Brees' Hall of Fame level of play? Like, when Drew Brees is gone, do you think Brandin Cooks is going to be that dominant?
No, I think he's better than most wide receivers. We saw where he got drafted in the NFL draft shows. He is a true talent. His speed is great, but he's not going to be able to put up these numbers when a backup quarterback or a rookie quarterback or someone like that comes in for a couple of years. So from a dynasty perspective, I think you might be right in worrying about the super long term, but I think Drew Brees plays for a couple more years at a high level, which means, we talk about not worrying too much about 3 years down the road.
Here's the thing is it doesn't matter if you're Brandin Cooks or Larry Fitzgerald. If you get put with the wrong quarterback, you see a career and fantasy numbers that just completely aren't even close to what you've put up in the past, and then Larry Fitzgerald found Carson Palmer again, and wow, he's great again. I mean, from a fantasy perspective, that's just a hard thing to replicate with a different quarterback. I am on record, I think 1 episode ago, I really, really believe in Drew Brees this year. I think Drew Brees is going to be undervalued like he was in your dynasty draft, and I think that he has potential to be a top 5 quarterback again.
And my other quick point, I feel like his name came up when I was not on the show. I am very excited for Willie Snead.
Yeah,
next year.
I am too.
I think all the shine, all the hype is going to go on Brandin Cooks. I'm with Andy. I think Drew Brees can have another great high-level quarterback year, and Willie Snead is going to be the guy you can get in the later middle rounds.
He almost had 1,000 yards, but didn't, so he'll slip back again.
I don't remember if he was brought up in the conversation, but I know that there was the question of, like, who could be next year's Eric Decker, that super consistent wide receiver 2.
Yeah, he was.
Willie,
he was.
Okay, because he seems perfect for it.
Yeah, you're right. So question number 7. In the last 3 weeks of the NFL season, I had more touchdowns than any other wide receiver, which accounted for half of my total touchdowns on the year.
Okay.
Who am I?
Final
Option
3
A,
weeks? Okay.
Doug Baldwin. Option B, Jordan Matthews. Option C, Jeremy Maclin. Option D, Demaryius Thomas. And what I will say is that all 4 of those guys had at least 3 touchdowns over that time period. But one of them had
the final 3 games.
4. One of them had 4.
Okay. So
in the last 3 weeks of the season, I had more than any other wide receiver, which was half my total on the year.
And I'm going to go with a guy who I still believe in. And people, the shine is now way off of him because the first half of his season was complete trash. Speaking of trash, he was the ultimate garbage man. However, the second half of the year, he put up great stats for fantasy. I'm going with Jordan Matthews.
Oh. I'm going to surprise myself here because it was the one name I wanted to not have on this list when you first read it. But thinking more clearly, if he had 3 touchdowns in these last couple games and that doubled his total, that means he didn't have many on the year, 6. And I'm going to go Demaryius Thomas, who just had a really disappointing year.
Well, actually,
And you want to listen carefully.
He would have had 4.
I said they all had 3, but one had 4.
So he would have finished with
the
8.
correct answer is Jordan Matthews,
I'm doing bad on this listening
who
part.
finished with 8.
You got to write this down. I gotta be able to read this.
But
right.
yes, Jordan. So Baldwin, Maclin, and Thomas all had 3. Matthews had 4, which was half of his 8 on the year.
Yeah.
And he's another guy who, like Mike said, the shine was off of him because he started so poorly. But he really did end up with another great season overall.
And it sounds like, to me, sounds like Sam Bradford will be back. Allegedly, Philadelphia has already upped their contract offer to him. You get another year of chemistry, at least, between Bradford and Matthews. I know it's going to be a new offense because the coaching staff is completely different, but you got to like the longer term chemistry between the two.
Yeah, that's a good point. More importantly, where are we at score wise?
It is 5-5.
Ooh, how many questions do we have left?
We have several.
Okay.
These next couple, you do not get multiple choice.
Oh, man.
You are forced to guess them. All right, number 8. If you took my last 5 games of the 2015 season, which were, by the way, 16 passing touchdowns and 1 interception, and averaged that out over an entire NFL season of 16 games, I would have thrown 51 touchdowns and had 3 interceptions, which quarterback
set your
am
phasers
I?
to you got to set your phasers to kill. Go Kirk Cousins.
I was not going to go with Kirk Cousins.
Oh, all right.
So we got Kirk Cousins from Jason?
I was going to go with another favorite of the show, Russell Wilson.
The answer. Well, let me put it this way. One of you got it right, and one of you did not. And the one who did not had 13 touchdowns and 1 interceptions.
Oh, no.
One
so
interception.
we were both right on the money. Just
Very
one of us-
close, but the answer is Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Kirk Cousins had 13 and 1.
I knew I hate Kirk Cousins. Why did I say his name?
Cam Newton went 15 and 1 over that span. Blake Bortles went 13 and 5 over that span. But Russell Wilson, 16 passing touchdowns and 1 interception. Russell Wilson and Mike in the lead now. Look,
He went honey baked ham.
It's the power of the Baldwin. Is he the? Yeah, Doug Baldwin. I think he's the newest
Alec
Baldwin,
Baldwin.
brother.
Yeah, put him in the brothers.
Yeah, we need a Photoshop picture of all of the Baldwin brothers with Doug Baldwin.
That'd be
there.
a good team name, the Baldwins. We all hesitate to ascribe greatness to Doug Baldwin, but do we hesitate to ascribe it to Russell Wilson for next season?
Oh, man.
51 touchdown pace. This is not, a small sample size.
No, this whole second half of the year, he went just bananas. And of the earlier guys, the quarterbacks right now, I really like Russell Wilson because at least to me, he won't be one of those first 4-round guys. Maybe he will be by the time draft season rolls around. I'm still not going to pay that price. But if I'm going to go in on any of the guys, let's say I can get Cam or Rodgers in the second, or I can get Russell Wilson in the 4 or 5 area, I'd go with Wilson.
I think it's interesting because the reality that we can all like Thomas Rawls. You can love him. You can do whatever you want. The odds of him being as efficient a runner as Marshawn Lynch are almost none.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen like that. We can all remember Jeremy Hill and all the potential Jeremy Hill had. It's very, very hard to be really, really good in consecutive years and to build a career like Marshawn Lynch. That leans me towards thinking Russell Wilson's going to keep throwing the ball the way he was. Now, it might not be Baldwin. It might be Lockett. It might be some other.
If he keeps throwing the ball like that, Lockett and Baldwin should both have great years.
Sure. So 6'5", Mike's in the lead. All right, question number 9. This wide receiver was second in the league in receptions through the first 8 weeks of the season. Who is he?
Second most receptions through the first half.
And if we need to go to multiple choice, we can.
There's 2 names that come to my mind.
We'll give you one guess each, then we'll go to multiple choice.
DeAndre Hopkins and Julian Edelman were unbelievable. Is this targets or receptions? I didn't listen again.
Receptions.
Second most.
Second most.
So
those are the 2 guys that come to mind, like 1 and 2.
I'm with you.
I'm going to go with Julian Edelman because I think DeAndre Hopkins was leading by a long shot.
Ooh, that's a very valid point. I'm trying to think of a third player X who could possibly be Julio Jones had a hot start. He had a hot start to the season, and Hopkins was the first name that popped into my head. The second is a little conflicting with that, but I'm going to go with Hopkins.
All right, you're both wrong.
Yeah.
But, except for Mike was right. Julio Jones was first at that point in the season with 70 receptions. This player had 67. It's not Hopkins. It's not Edelman. Do we want one more guess? Halfway through the season, 67 receptions. The leader was Julio Jones with 70.
Oh. Antonio Brown?
No.
All right.
Sorry, guys.
Jason gets a guess.
One guess, Jason.
Jarvis Landry.
Where's the music?
Yes.
This is the perfect time for the music. That's a great guess.
It is not Jarvis Landry.
That's a really good one, though.
You guys, I thought you would get it right away. He's one of my...
Brandon Marshall?
Oh, really?
No, not Brandon Marshall. This is just going to be...
Who is this? Who is this?
Keenan Allen.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Keenan Allen,
That's,
guys.
I forgot about him.
That's what's so
That's why
great
it's so
about
great.
Keenan Allen. That is literally, bringing this back to fantasy football for next year, that is what's so great about Keenan Allen.
Give me Le'Veon Bell in the first and Keenan Allen in the second round,
I'm
baby.
with you, man. I'm all aboard on Keenan Allen.
Those kidney lacerations, those don't happen
very
back-to-back years, hopefully.
He's got two.
You guys earned a cool 0 points each on that one.
All right.
Good question number 10.
Nailed it.
In 2015, I had 8 touchdowns against top 10 opponents, which is more than Ben Roethlisberger, Andy Dalton, Eli Manning, and Kirk Cousins. Oh, I'm not even a quarterback. Who am I?
You really threw me off there. I'm
I know.
racking my brain through quarterbacks.
Here. In 2015, I had 8 touchdowns against top 10 opponents. I'm not a quarterback. Your options are A, Doug Baldwin, B, Jeremy Hill, C, Rob Gronkowski, or D, Tavon Austin.
Oh, I'm so upset that you didn't even name the name of
And
the
let me
guy.
say this. All 4 of those names I gave you had at least 6 touchdowns against top 10 opponents.
All right, you got to give me the names again because I was just waiting for my guy to be named.
Doug Baldwin, Jeremy Hill, Rob Gronkowski, and Tavon Austin. Who do you think? It's kind of a weird question, so that's a hard one.
It's a little bit weird, but
that's a weird one.
But I remember, I seem to recall Jeremy Hill having multi-touchdown games. So I'm going to go with the burst effect of. I know he dropped a couple at least on the Cardinals. So I'm going to go with Jeremy Hill.
Yeah, that's
Doug Baldwin, Jeremy Hill, Rob Gronkowski, Tavon Austin.
Strong guess. Obviously,
And I know Hill had a bunch of touchdowns.
Doug Baldwin had a lot of multi-touchdown games. I'm not sure that it was against the best competition. I'm going to go with Gronk. I know he put up some against good competition.
Very close. Gronk had 7. Hill had 6. The answer is Doug Baldwin.
Oh, my boy.
Doug Baldwin. So you both have failed again. We have 2 questions left on this quiz. Jason is trailing 6-5.
Whoa.
This is unacceptable. I got a sweep.
Impressive year for Doug Baldwin, no doubt. All right, number 11, I do not start at running back, but I have over 50 receptions and have the same amount of rush attempts in 2015 as I do receptions. Okay. So, same amount of rush attempts as I do receptions. Am I Theo Riddick?
Oh, I already had a guess.
Am I Tavon Austin? Am I Gio Bernard? Am I Dexter McCluster?
My guess was the aforementioned. He was in the previous question, and I'm going with the. Oh man, I feel like he only had like 20-something receptions, and I'm going with Tavon Austin.
I'm going with Gio Bernard.
The answer is Tavon Austin.
Oh, yes,
that means
it's done. Right. This game is done.
52. I didn't tell you the last question has bonus points.
Oh
no! The Tavon Austin had 52 rush attempts and 52 receptions.
Well, that's more receptions than I gave him.
Theo Riddick had 43 rush attempts and 80 receptions. Gio had 154 rush attempts and 49 receptions, and McCluster was 55 rush attempts, 31. So Tavon Austin, the enigmatic Tavon Austin,
what do you do
I never
with
want to
that?
start Tavon Austin, and yet if I did, I would be happy every third game, maybe every other game for a while there during the season. I love when I have a wide receiver that gets the ball handed to him. I loved having Percy Harvin during that 8 or 9 games he had with Minnesota where he got end rounds and he got opportunities to run the ball. We've seen
Randall
Cobb do that before. Exactly. So here we go. All right. If Jason can get this one, I'll give you one more question just to make it close.
All right.
Number 12. Even though I was one of only 10 wide receivers in 2010 to catch 10-plus touchdowns, I had a lower catch rate than anyone from wide receiver 1 through wide receiver 5.
Did you say 2010?
No, I'm sorry. I said even though I was one of only 10 wide receivers in 2015 to catch 10-plus touchdowns. Okay, so this wide receiver
so 10-plus touchdowns.
Had 10-plus touchdowns,
All right.
but he had a lower catch rate than anybody from the span of wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 5.
Oof.
All right?
Okay, catch rate.
Really low catch rate, 10-plus touchdowns. And this is a guess one.
Okay.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is Mike Evans because you can't catch the ball.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with Mike Evans.
I'm not sure that did Evans have 10
That
touchdowns?
was my question. I don't think he did.
I don't think he did.
Oh, come on.
Well, you're looking up.
I know the answer. No, I looked at a player list, and now I know the answer, but I'm not going to say it because it was after I.
Off the top of my head, I know he had a great year with Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's still not the most accurate quarterback, so I'm going to go Brandon Marshall.
This is sucky obvious, I think. And then
Let's see how dumb you are.
All right, let's see how dumb I am. It's got to be Ted Ginn Jr.
It is Ted Ginn Jr.
I mean, the guy can't catch.
Yeah.
He had 44 receptions on 97 targets, which is a 45% catch rate, and he had 10 touchdowns. Other guys in that, this will be interesting for you because maybe this will change your perspective on one of them. James Jones was 50 on 100 and had 8 touchdowns. Emmanuel Sanders was 76 on 137, which is only a 55% catch rate, and had 6 touchdowns. Allen Robinson was 80 on 153 targets, which was only a 52% catch rate, but had 14 touchdowns. So that might take a little bit of the fading Allen Robinson. Maybe his touchdown numbers go down, but maybe he gets to 90, 100 receptions, evens that out a little bit next year.
Sure.
But the answer is Ted Ginn.
Yeah.
Another player. If you were rolling Tavon Austin and Ted Ginn out there,
Dancing with the devil.
scary stuff.
You did not win your championship, if that's what happened.
Maybe.
No,
Yeah.
you
Might have.
The stars would have had to align on a weekly basis. Well, Mike, congratulations.
Mike. You are the winner of Play a Game. You're a winner of the Demon Game for 2016 on this leap year, no wait, March 1st. We have a mailbag show on Thursday. If you have a question that you want answered on the show, that's what we do. We answer your questions. And so you go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com, click on the Submit a Question button at the top of the screen. Send those questions in to us. They can be Dynasty, Keeper, Commish questions, Draft questions, Strategy questions.
Favorite food.
Pretty much anything that you have.
We love talking
Obviously,
about food.
Jason would be interested in the food-related ones.
Lay off me. I'm starving.
Play a game. So
What is happening?
I don't know. But we will be back on Thursday, possibly with the correct date. Thanks for listening to the
We make
Fantasy
no
Footballers.
guarantees.
We make no guarantees. Look,
getting ready for
if
our,
it's a new episode, who cares what date we say?
What is
For
Jason?
our wrestling match here
Oh,
on YouTube.
Yeah, show after the show on YouTube. Check us out. Thanks for listening, guys. Subscribe.
Goodbye.
Subscribe on iTunes.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.